with the robot, I wonder, maybe it doesn't move. It just keeps on going, or it goes in the wrong direction where it could potentially hit another car in the oncoming traffic. Human beings still have to think. You can't let the bots do everything. It's not going to quite kill the bookkeeper, but it is going to probably change what the bookkeeper needs to know and focus on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Strategy and the Virtual Controller. My name's Damien Gracehead and my co-host Penny Breslin, where we talk about all things CAS, client accounting and advisory services, cloud bookkeeping, virtual controller services, virtual CFO services, and I think all of the challenges, mistakes we've made along the way, the good things we've seen along the way as well. And that's what Strategy and the Virtual Controller is designed to do, share those insights that we're picking up from around the world. As I said, my name's Damien Gracehead. I'm sitting in Sydney. We are in the middle of summer. Santa is on his way. Penny, how's everything in San Diego?
I'm in Wyoming.
You're in Wyoming? Oh, a little bit chillier then.
A little bit chillier and windier, yes. But not.
And will it be a white Christmas or?
A little bit, not a lot, but a little, yeah.
Wonderful. So it's before Christmas. Fingers crossed this episode will make it live before the new year. But what's happening in the firm? What's happening with your clients as we run into what could be called the silly season?
Yeah, silly. A lot of cleanups coming in for year ends that we typically get for people who haven't looked at a file all year. And somebody brings it in. And so we get more desktop stuff here at this time.
All right. Okay. Interesting. Yep.
Yeah, that's when most of those desktop folks bring their shit in. And a lot of cleanups and a lot of new businesses, startups. So that's kind of cool. And also getting ready for taxes. So just a variety, all the tax software that's out there. Really focused mainly on, corporate tax returns, 1040s. We do a lot of them, but they're done later in the obvious.
What about 1099s? Is that a big one for you in January?
Yeah, that's already started. Started at the end of November. We started getting those things organized. So
it still surprises me that people wait till January 2 to start on the 1099 process. But anyway,
I just arbitrarily told everybody, I don't even care if your CPA asked you to do it or not, or your bookkeeping firm asked you to do it. I want you to go in and run a report and give them what you think they need to collect. Don't wait for them to ask you. Let's just do this right now.
Yeah.
And what about, it'll be added to the hours. I said, believe me, it won't be a problem because we have to go in and a lot of the payroll companies, if they're paying through contractors to their payroll company, that's going to go ahead and take care of the 1099 for us.
Yep.
And then we have 1099 applications we use that clients use. But I like to make sure that regardless if it's in the payroll software or if it's in another 1099 specific software, I want to put in Xero or QBO or in the record in NetSuite or accounting suite because we're in those GLs a lot. I want that there because you never know when somebody's going to change an app and the GL is going to be less likely to be changed than a third-party app will be. And so, so make sure that the data's everywhere and in both places, and then pull up a report on what is marked for 1099 and what you think should be and isn't, and what we don't have documentation for. And we created a template and send that out to everybody. So that
very nice.
Do you want us to get started on this now?
I was going to say, what a lovely proactive service. I mean, it's so funny that some of the team were like, "Well, hang on, what'll that do to the hours?" And like, it'll save us hundreds of them in
later on.
Let's get started.
It'll save us a lot of fixing mistakes later and being rushed in January when we're also doing year ends and our tax teams starting to kick in on the corporate. So. Let's just do it. Plus, we're going to have sales tax, although more and more, at least I'm seeing more and more going to quarterly payment sales tax. That used to be annual, and those that were quarterly going to monthly. So they're getting done, but why put that pressure on yourself? Plus, we have 2 Indian holidays coming up in January, as usual. We have Pongal and Republic Day. So let's take care of this and nip it in the bud now.
Now, you sort of mentioned the sort of that rush into the end of the year. And one of the things that I am seeing more and more of, and I even saw this morning on LinkedIn, was a company talking about letting the bots do the reconciliation. And I was sort of just wondering as well, as like, I remember back in my receipt bank days, what we promised and what we did, there was sometimes a gap between that. I think that's still, don't get me wrong, come a long way since then across all technology. But I do wonder if some folks are potentially a little bit too trusting of that type of technology.
I don't think they're necessarily too trusting, but
or they're too rushed.
They're too rushed.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's lack of understanding of the file. Okay, here's one. This is a company file that we've been working on with a firm for 2 years. And because we're in it and we're closing it every month, and because the firm is when they say they're a virtual partial CFO, they actually are doing the work and then doing the value added. And so I got a message from the team leader saying, something odd. I thought I'd just run it by you. This company had a reoccurring monthly payment that never changed and had been ongoing for 2 years, right? And in one afternoon, 12 transactions came through for exactly the amount of the monthly dues, 12 times, right after each other, one right after each other, which was a red flag. So she did not push it from review and QuickBooks to the register. She slacked me. And in the morning, by the time I woke up and looked at it, there were 10 more. So because of the openness that this firm has with this client, we also could go in and look, because this was all put on a credit card. And we could go look at the credit card and see if the transactions were there too. So first we had to go, okay, we know this is a mistake because we know the history of the file and we know the history of the client. And so it's in the review. Now let's go see if it's in the actual real feed as it existed in the American Express card, which is where it came in on. And lo and behold, it was in the American Express card too. So it wasn't the feed problem doing an issue. It was in American Express. The problem was the merchant. As Megan said, the bot got its fingers stuck on the cash register. And she goes, the bot made a mistake. And we caught it like the day it happened. And we waited 24 hours because they had to wait to get an answer. And it got worse. So we added up all of the items we did not push. We let the CPA know. He said, okay. And since Megan and I are here in the United States, Megan said, I'll call, because she had already done it once before for them. And we have administrative access. So we called American Express. They said, well, maybe they had that many charges. And since it's Audible, it was audible.com. And Megan said, not unless they bought out the Library of Congress. And I said, no, we have a history. We have a history going back 2 years that this is the monthly fee. I said, you don't understand. Audible doesn't work that way. It's a flat monthly fee rate. She goes, oh, okay. So before the client ever saw the mistake, we not only got it fixed, we got it refunded, because we had to go through the process and then refund it back. And American Express refunded it back. We made notes so that the CPA, when he talked to his client that month, said, oh, and this is what we caught from American Express. By the way, let's discuss your American Express expenses. And so he turned it into a value-add conversation. But the bots made a mistake. The bots at Audible made a mistake. Amex didn't make a mistake, and the Intuit feed didn't make the mistake. But we had to work our way back to find out where the original mistake was. And a bot's not going to do that. Bot's not going to do that. The bot would have accepted all $2,141, and the client would have probably paid it, and none would have been the wiser.
So what was the flag for your team? Like that's as in they would, and I think you make a really good point there that if you're not in the file regularly, you probably would have accepted it as well.
Well, I don't think not knowing it was Audible, I wouldn't have.
Because
I understood that way. I know, and everybody knows, I would assume that's the way the charges go. They don't do that. They just don't give you a flat charge over and over again, 1 minute apart. Boom, boom. I mean, because you could see the time on it when it happened.
Right. Okay. But let's just say, for example, if you were automatically coding or automatically accepting transactions. Made a rule for Audible to say subscriptions.
Yeah, if you did a rule on that one, it would have automatically done.
Just gone straight through. But I guess in the monthly review, you would have seen.
We would have caught it then.
You would have seen October subscriptions this, November subscriptions this, December subscriptions $3,000. Wait, what?
Yeah, from $15 to almost $3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have caught it, but I don't think a bot would have.
No, of course not. And so I think as well, if you are probably further on the trust spectrum of bots and AI and machine learning and all that type of stuff, probably would have gone straight through.
Yeah, and the bot problem, you have to figure out which bot did it. It wasn't Intuit's bot and it wasn't American Express's bot. It was Amazon's bot. Where do we place the finger for the robot that has its buttons stuck?
You do sort of think though as well as like how often does that actually happen?
And a little bit more than you would imagine.
No, I bet because it's that automatic transaction and it always goes through. And I think it's not the old days, but those days of fraud where it's sort of small amounts happening on a regular, consistent basis and you don't know it. But probably something that would have come out of that was I know you were talking about this particular client as, hey, you've got a lot of expenses going on to American Express and you're carrying a lot of interest month to month as a result of that. So definitely an advisory sort of opportunity there to sort of sit down and talk about what's actually happening in the business. Same thing as well to be like, do we need to sit down and have a review of your subscription? Let's flag all of the subscriptions that we can see in the file and just make sure that you're getting what you paid for. You're not being overcharged. You're using whatever it is. Again, I think really great ways in which a controller would add value. And so if you are going down this path of a virtual controller, these are the types of things you need to be doing for your clients, keeping an eye out for all of those types of transactions, all of those, and making sure they're getting value from those transactions.
Yeah. And you have to be in that file a lot.
Yeah.
Not be distant from the client.
and you certainly can't come back in sort of June and look at January, February, March, April, May. We noticed all of these transactions, which don't make a lot of sense to us. Can we sit down and talk about them?
Now that it's tax
season, now the tax season's over, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to fly. No, in fact, this client never even overspent because we got it refunded within 24 hours. So yeah, it was a case of a bot made a mistake, just like a human could have. And then somebody who had knowledge of the file and an understanding of the file knew right away that this was potentially a problem and better to bring it up than to ignore it.
And and hopefully identify additional ways or additional things to talk about. So it makes a lot of sense, but I think it sort of just goes to show that bots and AI, they're not taking over the world. Yes, it helps me write better emails, or it picks up my spelling mistakes and all that type of stuff. But it still requires that level of review and that level of knowledge
and
of the business.
Detail.
Yeah.
Detail. It doesn't necessarily require, in this case, it didn't require any accounting knowledge. It required somebody understanding how the subscription worked and knowing the breadcrumb trail to follow to go back to the beginning.
Now, obviously, this is a slightly different one because it's a recurring subscription that happened. But often, and I'm not sure, I'd love to get your opinion of this, Penny, is a lot of accountants or bookkeepers, let's say the mistake was, or the error that was made was maybe the coding of a transaction or something along those lines. We picked up the mistake, but sort of, I'm not sure how much it's happening now, but previously, a lot of firms would have thrown their arms up and said, you know what? We're getting rid of that particular app. We're getting rid of the technology. The app can't do it. AI doesn't work, and we're abandoning all our efforts as a result of one or two of those mistakes. But are we seeing that still?
A little bit. I think it's more like okay. See, people can get pissed off at me all they want, but I've been watching QuickBooks files now for desktop files now for how old am I? Probably 35 years, right? So one of the things I noticed is that some people of my generation and older, and maybe some younger than me, won't look at the QuickBooks file. They just want us to export it to Excel, right? Or PDF. Just give me the final reports because they don't want to have anything to do with it because they don't trust it and they don't believe in it or they think it's beneath. There is some of that. But part of the reason why they don't trust it is because of those misaligned transactions that were put in the wrong place. But they were often put in the wrong place because of human misunderstanding of where they should have been, because you never bothered to teach your client. And if you did, your client had a different bookkeeper all the time, and you just didn't want to deal with the mess. And I get that. I so get that, because with the desktop product, it's like playing the old game of telephone. Instead of
Even in the cloud world, like if you coded incorrectly the first time, then the system.
it does that. But with the cloud world, you can get in it quicker. You don't have to wait for the telephone line.
Yeah, true.
We're going from Morse code to Western Union to Ma Bell, right? When you're on desktop, basically.
And actually, no, and that's a good point as well, is at least with the rule, if the machine learning remembered how you coded Bell, you would continue to do that. So that's what you would see. Whereas I remember when...
There's a consistency.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can find if the issue is consistent the whole way through, it's much easier to fix than if there were multiple people in the file over multiple years with no rules in place and passing the file back and forth constantly.
I just remember my early days of bookkeeping and like coding the credit card statement. And I'm like, how did I do that last month? I can't remember. Oh, well, we'll just put it in here. And then basically, you put it in. And then basically I was taught to then, my first layer of review was to go and look for anomalies. And so I would basically look at all the line items to be like, this is the first time we've got subscriptions and dues or whatever. And so like, what on earth was a subscription or a subscription? Go in, have a look. It's me because I've miscoded it. So I then have to go back and find out how I coded that particular supplier the first time or how that was set up. But yeah, I remember those days.
So I see that. I do think that obviously we're getting more QBO files. This time of year, we get more desktop because we got people bringing them in at the end of the year for cleanup. But QBO files, they get done so quick now that it's not a big issue. Or the Zero files, coding suite, anything that's in the cloud, it's going to get done quicker. But knowing, like from one of our local clients here, she called me, she goes, we're no longer using MindBody. We switched over to Hello Wallet. And I said, well, I don't think we ever get into your MindBody because we just get the final journal entries. And she goes, that's true. I said, but thank you for letting us know, because it's a good idea for us to know which other programs and apps she's using to get her information on, because that can help us to catch mistakes better and figure out where the mistake might have originated from. If it originated from a human, then I could teach that human. If it originated from a bot, then the developer, the bot's going to want to know so that they can correct it. But the problem is if you don't, then you let the bot make the mistake. And it's the same thing with humans. If you let them make the mistake, it'll continue to make the mistake. And then you're going to throw the bot out. And realistically, just like a human, the bot needs to be trained. Yeah. So you don't want to you want to review.
Yes.
And if you have the time to review, you will catch the bot's mistakes and fix it. They're not perfect either.
But the nice thing is, hopefully, the training of the bot is significantly less time intensive than training of the human. So,
well, I don't know. It's probably going to be pissed at me, but their feeds, no matter what I do, I still have an issue with them automatically going into areas that are associating a transaction with something in the review area that it's like, what the hell? I mean, I've had this transaction come through forever. Why isn't it? So
why is it?
Oh yeah. I've seen it. In my own file, I've seen it.
We would see that at Receipt Bank sometimes. It's just like it's been it's been automatically coded or the customer has coded, the client's coded it to.
No, it's in the review. It hasn't been coded yet. It's the recommendation that it's giving.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. And you just like, wait, how did?
Well, I'm sure that has a lot to do with the way they're pulling the data. And then the lines of the data that's getting pulled may not be the exact same, even though it's presenting the same.
Yeah.
Kind of like an IP address versus when you type in a web address and you type in the name of a company, it's numbers in the background. So the numbers and the way the fetch is coming in may appear different to the bot. I get that.
So it's not that different from Morse code to Bell to...
No, it's not.
Plugging in the phone lines.
I mean, I understand why it happens. I understand the logic behind it, but that's why you still need to review. not review.
You can't not. And actually that's probably what will screw up the client relationship, the trust factor the most, that if you sort of skip that stage. Yeah. So
what happens is if you're going to do that means you have to be in there often enough to understand the potential for it having made a mistake.
Yeah.
And why that might happen. And don't get upset with it. Understand that just like anything, there are multiple things going on in the background. Like the fact that a bank feed, there's like something like 2,000 lines of data that could be pulled out of a transaction. But what exactly is that particular type of feed's code pulling? And did the sending entity where the original transaction occurred change anything on their end? And then the bots have to catch up with that.
It's one of those funny things. To your point is like, let's just say they added another figure or something like that, one more pixel in.
And we'll change it, yes.
And it moves at one pixel left. And so now all of a sudden the bot's looking at something different. It's going to report different. Yeah, exactly. It is quite fascinating.
So it's not maybe necessarily even to its AI that's failing. It's something that pulled in from that bank changed something. And the banks don't call up these software companies and go, we're going to do everything.
Just to let you know.
Just to let you know.
That was always one of the things with bank feeds, wasn't it? Because so many different ways in which the bank feed could break, one of which being they changed the login button from blue to red, or they moved it 2 pixels to the right. That has the potential to break a bank feed. And yeah, once you sort of get in and look under the hood and learn more about the technology side of things, it's actually quite fascinating as to ways in which the technology can get screwed up. Nothing has changed other than the button has moved 1 pixel or 1 millimeter or whatever to the left, can throw the whole,
and a human,
all those connections into disarray.
A human we were driving down out to Powder River because Rick said, I've been in Wyoming for a week and I haven't seen one antelope or one deer. I go, well, because they've already come down off the mountain. So let me take you over here. So we went out to Powder River. I took him to Hell's Half-Acre. And there used to be a cute little bar out there, but they tore that out. So he didn't quite have his beer when he got out there. But he did see a ton of antelope and some muleys. But one of them ran into the road. So you're going 75 miles an hour down a 2-lane highway. Probably shouldn't have said that. Anyways.
I did think, what were the animals that you saw? Were they on the side of the road or were they?
Well, no, but one of them was on the outside of a fence and it ran into the road. Now, we could see it and we could swerve, right? Because the animal moved into position to be able to be hit. So something moved and we can adjust immediately. With a robot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Penny, let's shift gears a little bit and let's actually think it's the last episode of the season, last episode of the year. I'd love to sort of reflect on a couple of your highlights from the show, a couple of your favorite episodes, some of our favorite guests, and maybe even some of the favorite events that we had it along to. So sort of maybe spend a bit of time just reflecting on the year. So what was your favorite episode?
The one with Andrew on cybersecurity.
Where I got schooled on all the different ways in which I'm compromising.
Well, I find that stuff fascinating and scary at the same time. And it's quite interesting to see how the rules have had to change to adapt to it. Like there are companies that give you voice over IP that allow SMS text to come in to the VoIP phone. And you have to put yourself on a registry in order to be able to have those SMS texts come through because of so much fraud coming through on text phone. And that's just new. That's fairly new and recent that you're having to do that to protect yourself. So I found the cybersecurity one fascinating because I don't think I'll ever have enough feeling of safety when it comes to that.
Well, also just how rapidly it's evolving. And like even ourselves, we got a DocuSign in Spanish and we're like, hang on, is this legit? What's this? We hadn't been advised we were getting anything. This was for the producers of the show. And I can't remember.
No, there wasn't this.
It wasn't legit. Yeah.
I get illegitimate DocuSigns daily.
Yeah. Like the complexity of the scams, how quickly they're evolving. And if you're not staying up to date with what are the latest scams or the latest trends in scams, you're going to be caught out. I mean, I've had my identity stolen and I'm still dealing with California EDD and all that type of thing. But yeah, if you're not careful, I don't think that happened as a result of a check in the mail or something along those lines. But I've had that as well. My friends had their tax return check stolen. A whole host of different forms of fraud that are happening. But yeah, I thought that one with Andrew was fascinating, and a couple of tips and tricks to help along the way. But actually, I think that probably the more important lesson was, if you don't have somebody, a trusted source that is helping you with this on a consistent basis, you might be at risk.
Yeah, it's definitely something another thing that business owners need to do, where there are some things they don't have to do anymore. So the thing is, when technology takes away one function, it seems to give it something else to do. To make up for that loss, to fill the time and the void. That's for sure. Yeah. So I think that was one of my favorites. And I really enjoyed going to the TriNet show for the Unique CPA this year.
That was one out of Chicago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was in Chicago. And for me, that was probably, the conferences have been good, without a doubt. But that one was just well run, and it was small enough and intimate enough to have a lot of time to learn, as well as being good presenters who had really good information, many of whom I saw again later. They were that good that you saw them at other events. So those were probably my two favorites of the year. What about you?
Two favorite episodes that come to mind. And I think there is a recency effect as well, because I literally just logged onto the website to sort of go back and think of look at all the different episodes that we had. But yeah, sort of we're up to episode 68. So this will be 69 this episode. So they are more recent ones. I thought the conversation with Jan Haugo was really great, because it was that opportunity to talk through the realities of CAS. And you go to the conferences and everyone's raving about it's easy and it's a money spinner and all that type of thing. But actually sort of sitting with Jan and just having that that conversation. And I think the realization across the three of us is it's a 2+ year transformation in terms of really recognizing and realizing the benefits of it. And I think I'm not sure what your initial thought was. My thought was 1 year, but it was actually just in that conversation that I came to the realization that it's at least 2 years, because you got to get 2 cycles in. You got your first cycle, which is going to be a bit messy in your first tax season and sort of as you change. But then actually it's really in that second season that whether it's working or not, and you can actually fine tune.
So that was to fine tune it to make it work for you.
Yeah, exactly. And again, a bit like one of those things of the short termism of what I think a lot of these shows and a lot of the people talking about CAS aren't actually speaking about. And so a lot of people give up 6 months in because it's not delivering what was promised.
When you go to college here in the United States, you're 18 years old, right? And you're declaring a major. And I don't know about other people, but I think I changed my major like 3 times.
Yeah, same.
And I don't do any work that revolves around my major. So
you did education, didn't you?
Yeah, it was U.S. history and geography. Yeah. But so just like with anything, you kind of fine tune what you want to know. Some kids, they go into college and they're in STEM. They're going to be a doctor. They're going to be an engineer. They stick with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of other people don't. And they switch. And so I think that this business, because of the advisory and consulting part of it, that's the part that's very fluid at the beginning. And you have to really work. The 2 years is trying to figure out what part of it you want to do. Because you might want to do, like at the beginning, remember we say in the first chapter of the book, you have to know what you want to do first. Yeah. And you may have an idea that this is what you want to do. And you're going in and you're going, God damn, I hate this shit. I don't want to do this. But there's this other stuff over here that's really interesting that's occurring too. And so I think that the first year is getting the process down. And then the second year is figuring out what part of the process you want to grow.
Yes.
Yeah. Fascinating conversation with Jill. We need to have her come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think my other highlight, if you sort of stick to 2, one of my highlights, I think, was seeing Namila and Shamila in Las Vegas, but we spoke to them. When were you in Chennai this year? Was that sort of January, February, March?
What? Yeah, I was in Chennai in January. I'm
Yeah,
going
yeah.
back again next week after Christmas.
But you were in Chennai in January, and we spoke with Namila and Shamila. The office had just been renovated.
Yeah, the second floor had been finished, yeah.
And so, which was absolutely amazing. And then got to see them in Las Vegas at QuickBooks Connect. And it was sort of really interesting to talk to them and catch up on how things are going in the year. And I love asking a question of like, I'm not asking a question about the technical training, but what about you as a business owner? What about you as a director, as a partner, as a shareholder of this business and how it's all going? And actually sort of having that conversation with them, because I think we often talk in the technical and the apps and all that type of stuff, but it was really nice to talk to them as business owners and, 70 people, 70 odd people in the firm, 75 people.
And they're accepting more of the fact that they're business owners before they're even accountants now. And because of that, and it's been a struggle, but because of that, also the team leaders are understanding that they're not doing the work anymore. They're managing the work.
Yeah.
And that's been a struggle for them because it's all about seniority and designation. No, it's about who's talented enough to do this. And it's not
as
that
we've
you're
always said,
more talented than somebody else. It's just that it takes a different talent to be able to do this as opposed to maybe even being that detailed person. Because it was the preparer that caught that mistake, but it was the team leader that communicated the mistake.
But also it's a case of, and we've said this along the episode across episodes as well, is your next hire isn't necessarily another accountant. It's not another you, because as the business grows and evolves, it has different needs and different requirements. And so too does your team. You need really good administrators. You need good technicians. You need good
learners,
customer success people. Yeah.
You need good learners. And because of the education system in the United States, I'm going to promote it a little bit here because I've been in other countries where they still do a lot of rote, repetitious work. They teach you how to learn. At least where I went to school, the nuns taught us how to learn. And it was like, this is what we want you to get out of this. Now, here are all the tools you can use to go figure out how to get that accomplished. And then come back to me when you have questions. So I want somebody who can do that and not hide in a corner and throw their hands up and say, I can't figure this out. I want somebody who's a learner. And that learner doesn't have to know diddly squat about debits and credits. Oh, I didn't. But I figured that out because I could learn. My problem is I'm kind of squirrel. I'm not detailed enough, but I have people who are. And they're also learners. And so like for us every day, somebody posts something in the general channel in Slack, which is a piece of education on an app that they saw change. Like Megan, she goes, oh, the new search ed bar on QuickBooks Online. I love it. Look at what you can do with it. And so she just did a whole little describe how and threw it up in the channel for everybody in the company to read. So everybody's learning from everybody else. So I basically told them, you're all going to be teachers.
That culture, having that culture within your firm is so important. Just that learning culture and the willingness to share. And I think, how many apps have you got across? You got 207
297 now.
So the 297 apps across tax, accounting, bookkeeping, practice management, etc., and training and education, etc., etc. So you definitely need that learning mentality, don't you? Like without it, you're screwed.
Oh yeah, we'd be up Schitt's Creek without doubt. Yeah.
If you're looking for a holiday binge, Schitt's Creek is a great one as well. Right, Penny, I think they're two highlights of the year. I think there's a couple more that are in my mind, but I could talk we could keep going on and on. So folks, if you're new to Strategy in the Virtual Controller, go back into the archive and have a listen to some of the other episodes. We've had some great guests on this year, which we will continue to do in the new year. If you do have any questions for us or need some help either in workflow or practice management or getting the work done, reach out to us. You can find Penny Breslin either on LinkedIn or what's your website, Penny?
moneypennyllc.com.
And I am the only Damien Gracehead on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn, connect and send me a message. And if you have enjoyed the episode, please do like, please do share, please do help us get the good word out about strategy in the virtual controller. And also, Penny, one last plug for the book. It's not just the numbers. You can find that on cpatrendlines.com. So cpatrendlines.com, that's where you can find the book that's called It's Not Just the Numbers, which is sort of what we built this podcast on. Might be a good holiday read if you are looking to get into the CAS business, build your business with a bit more intentionality. So I'll give a plug there. But Penny, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to doing it all over again in the new year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you and the
thank
little
you.
boys. And by Christmas, we'll have 2 little girls, like I said.
Another one along the way with your daughter. So that's so exciting. So look forward to hearing that good news. Yeah, but Merry Christmas. Enjoy Wyoming. And
say hi
we'll
to
see you in
Sam
the new year.
for me.
Yeah, we'll do. Absolutely.
All right.
See you, Penny. Bye-bye.